subscribe. Tariq Radio. Like and subscribe.
All right, let's get some hands in here. Let's get those hands in here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get sports and streams. Sports and streams in the building. What's up, sister?
Reek.
What's up, sports? How are you, brother?
Man, I'm blessed. Good, glad to have you here. It's a few things I want to touch on. I'm gonna make it real quick for you.
Yes.
First things first. One thing that I'm recognizing from a lot of political news anchors who are Mexican, sports figures or whatever, they're saying a lot of shit like, especially the Mexicans. So while they calling for blacks to come join them and how they need allies, when it really gets to the nitty gritty of it, they not giving a about the Salvadorian people, the Ecuadorian people, and all the other illegal immigrants because they try to put themselves on a pedestal like the white people that they tried to join with, as if they're the highest class of the. And I want y'all to pay attention to that shit. There's like some elitism with Mexicans in America amongst the illegal immigrants. And number two, pay attention to the stars and the sports players who falling behind this shit. A lot of them, because a lot of these Mexicans are and a lot of these illegal immigrants, they have them raising their kids like
Mm-hmm.
the slave masters used to have our black women and our ancestors do, because they know that all the dirt going inside the house, all of the info that might get leaked out, maybe if it's an American person, not saying that they would, that those cheap labor, the people that really, the abulas, what they call them, they not gonna leak all of that information. So just watch out for the stars, and just wonder what kind of people they got watching their kids. And number two, it's a real big issue. When you talking about, as somebody who, I'm not a celebrity, but when you talking about someone who is in the trade field, when you
Mm-hmm.
talk and they talk about they do all the hard labor, no, what y'all doing is, and what these corporations are doing, are they are taking from the black and even the poor whites and the 9 to 5 whites. They're taking opportunities for us in trades. Trades built America. When you're talking about the electrician, the millwright, the plumber, these are 150 to $200,000 jobs in America, and they're paying them for a quarter on a dollar, taking all the jobs, to where if you are American, you have to go to trade school, you have to have a certain grade in algebra to get these jobs. To whereas when you coming over, they don't even know if you graduated from elementary school with these illegal immigrants, and they taking all the jobs. So I'm just tired of hearing that they do the work that we don't want to do. No, they're doing the work that we're not allowed to do no more, because they're being bought for pennies on the dollar. There's a lot more I can say on that shit, on all of this shit that I'm talking about. But I'm gonna let you cook, and I'm gonna land my plane.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, we've been hearing little narratives like, yeah, they're doing all of these jobs that we don't want to do. What they do. A lot of folks are coming over here and they're getting these jobs, like these minimum wage jobs that foundational Black American teenagers used to get. Listen, fam, come on, let's put our thinking caps on. Let's go down memory lane. How many of y'all grew up in the South? I grew up in the South. I was born in Detroit, but they sent me down south. Even not just in the South, but just sometimes in the Midwest too, but really in the South where people had yards and stuff like that. Y'all remember in the 70s and 80s when we were kids, we made our little money by going around cutting people's grass. We were like 8, 9, 10, 11. We made us some clothes money, school money. We made us some nice little pocket change. We'd go around the neighborhood with our lawnmower and a bucket of gas, knocking on people's doors, cutting their grass. Raise your hand if you did that as a kid. If y'all old enough to remember that, that was something that foundational Black American kids used to do in the 70s and 80s. A lot of us would do that. We would go around cutting grass. Now you got grown adults coming over here doing that. You got grown adults who do that now. Grown Hispanic adults. So we don't do it. We got etched out by foreign adults doing that. And that little grass cutting money, they can live off that because there's 20 of them in a house. You understand? So that was our little school money. How many of y'all work at little fast food spots in high school? Your first job, McDonald's, Rallies, um, Hardee's, Burger King. You made your little money working in fast food. Now you got etched out of that. You got a bunch of foreigners who's getting jobs, adults who's getting these jobs that foundational Black American, you know, those are the things that kept us out the streets, those little jobs, those little minimum wage jobs. That was enough to keep a lot of us out of trouble. But then we got etched out by grown ass immigrants coming over here and doing those minimum wage jobs. And they could afford to do it because, again, it's a bunch of them living in one house, pooling all their little money together. So this whole thing about them working harder, no, it's just a lot of them l- living in houses and apartments on top of each other, working minimum wage and getting jobs that Black kids used to get, foundational Black American teens used to get. So it's not comparative. I hear people saying that all this hard work and they just go, no, no, no. People try to rewrite history. I saw some people talking about California with all the riots and stuff going on. They were like, well, yeah, Mexicans, they're taking back over because Mexicans built California. Boy, do you know how false that is? That's not true. No disrespect to Mexicans. I'm cool with Mexicans. I'm cool, but we're not going to sit here lying. No, 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 we're not going. I do history now. I'm a history buff. No, Mexicans did not build California, family. Mexican Mexico controlled California for a very short period of time. It was brief and it was underdeveloped. Mexico controlled California for 27 years, from like 1821 to 1848. California was sparsely populated. It was underdeveloped. The population was small in California, under Mexican rule, and it wasn't populated by Mexicans. They just had control over it through paperwork, but it was like some of the indigenous people there who were not mixed with Spanish. And there were like less than 15,000 people in the whole area of California. It was mostly indigenous people and a very small number of Mexican settlers. But the thing is, it was Spain, not Mexico, that established those early missions there and some of the infrastructure. It was actually Spain, and not Mexico, Spain. Yeah. A lot of that stuff was built under Spanish rule prior to Mexican independence. And those Spanish missionaries, and all the Spanish they came over with black guides. When the Spanish first came over here, they had Estevanico, they had a black person guiding them. So it was Spanish laborers and it was minimal infrastructure. And it wasn't an advanced economy or an advanced society at all. So Mexico inherited some of those little fragile settlements, but they didn't really significantly expand or even industrialize them. California's major growth came after U.S. statehood. The real building of modern California came after 1850. That's when the U.S. became a state. And during the gold rush, that sparked massive migration to the U.S. from other parts of the country. uh So we got to be very, very clear on that. Mexican California was economically stagnant. Under Mexican rule, California was remote, underfunded frontier province. There was nothing going on in California. Just vast areas of land that was unused. It wasn't no, they weren't building anything. Let's just tell it just that's just the reality. They just didn't build nothing on it. Yeah. And the first one of the first woman to really get something popping was a black woman, Biddy Mason, in the 1850s. She went out to California, became a damn millionaire. They took her out there and she fought for her freedom in California and it ended up becoming the richest woman in the state, one of the richest women in the state. That was Biddy Mason. You know, and there was only really a handful of black folks out there, but we were making strides and making waves out there. You know, so let's put everything in context. Up there, even in the Bay Area, Mary Ellen Pleasant, that's another rich black woman, another foundational black American woman. We were really putting some cultural strides in the state of California. That was us really doing that. We did more to make California a cultural powerhouse, even with our small numbers. Let's put it all in context. Yeah. And look, the Mexicans, they were a very small minority in California's workforce. They're very, very small. Even after U.S. statehood, the Mexican descended populations, they remained a minority there. The growth of the cities and the industries, that was driven by Black Americans, Chinese laborers, and European immigrants, people like that. So saying that Mexicans built it, no. And then when you look at some of the architecture, especially in Los Angeles, most of the architecture that became the trademark of Los Angeles later on, that was a foundational Black American, Paul Revere Williams. There's a black man who designed LAX and designed a lot of those state buildings all through Los Angeles, designed some of the housing projects, designed the courthouse building downtown. Um, Designed a lot of those fancy houses in the Hollywood Hills. He was the one who taught people how to do architecture that would complement the hilly terrain of Los Angeles, putting those houses all up in the hills and designing the houses. That was Paul Revere Williams who started that. Foundational Black American man. So yeah, come on now, let's put everything in context here. Let's put everything in context. Uh-huh. And a lot of those the few Mexican landowners that did have some wealth out there in California, they sold their land to American settlers and corporations. So no, there was no unified resistance or effort by Mexicans to build the state of California. That's just not true when they say that. Yeah, that's a revisionist myth. That's the West Coast version of yeah, they created hip hop. That's like Latinos created hip hop. You know, people start trying to revise history. Let's truth be told, it wasn't a lot of Mexicans out there in California. Modern Mexican immigration is a 20th century phenomenon. Large scale Mexican migration to California, that didn't occur to the 20th century. Really after World War II. Yeah. So let's just put everything in the right context. All right. We got to put everything in the right context. Let me get my brother Twizzle in here from California, up there in the Yay area. Brother Twizzle. And I say all that with respect. I'm not saying that to disrespect. I just like everything to be in the right context. Again, I'm cool with Mexicans. Ain't got no problem with them. But we ain't going to be up here lying. Brother Twizzle, what's happening?
What's up with the player, man? You know what
What's
I'm saying? I just want to drop a little California history if it's okay.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead,
You know
brother.
what I'm saying what you was saying is like throughout my studies and my research, because I'm a history buff as well. When I went to this elementary school in Fremont, California, 1986, called Grimmer, they did the whole study of Colonel Fremont. Colonel Fremont was the colonel who came west with some Buffalo soldiers and some indigenous who came west, and they took California from the Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? That's why where we at in Fremont, California, it was named after him. You know what I'm saying? And when he came west, his biggest fight was with Native Americans, not Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? It was just at the time they had like so-called of a stronghold, and those were like the biggest components because they had guns, and like he came and took it just like that. And then how they say they try to build California, me and you both know that the California big migration and everything started in World War I when they was having the wars. And so America was like, they want to have ports on the West Coast just so they could have some defense mechanisms. And what did they want? They wanted the Black Americans to come. That's to come mostly Black Americans from the West Coast or from Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas and a few other places. You know what I'm saying? And then
Mhm.
once World War II popped and Pearl Harbor got hit, it was the emphasis got put to all gas, no brakes. And all of a sudden ports started popping up. Ports, and not only that, naval facilities start popping up everywhere. And where I'm at in West Oakland, we had a naval base up here, not only that, and an army base. And if you go to Richmond, they had a loading facility and a armory over there. You know what I'm saying? And all that was built by Black Americans because they wanted Black American labor because they know we were able to get it done in amount of time sufficiently and quickly. You know what I'm saying? So how Mexicans try to say they had something to do with it, they wasn't even acknowledged it because they didn't even want their labor. Mexicans are only here because of cheap labor. And even JD Vance said Americans will do those same jobs, but you have to pay them an American wage. You can't pay them a low under the table or immigrant rates. Because I remember when we were like in the culinary world, I was a chef before the pandemic hit. I was making 32, but they was bringing Mexicans in at 12. You know what I'm saying? How you gonna compete with that? So hey, I want to just put that in and land my plane, man. Have a good night, player.
Thank you so much. And yeah, my brother Twizzle, you reminded me of some other stuff, man. All the national parks, many of those national parks out in California that are great tourist attractions that really define what California is, those were being developed by foundational Black American men, the Buffalo Soldiers. Because me and my family, they love going to the parks. And you go to those parks and visit, they'll tell you. They got pictures of the Buffalo Soldiers. It was the Black soldiers who were going out there, um, clearing the way for those parks, protecting and managing those parks out there, and building the infrastructure and building the roads over there in Yosemite, Sequoia National Park, a lot of those parks out there. That was the Black Buffalo Soldiers maintaining and constructing the roads and hiking trails and making sure that um, those areas weren't being harmed by hostile outsiders. So yeah, we got to put all that in the right context. Let me get my brother Dwan B in the building. Yeah, California's up in here. We got California love in the house. Dwan B, what's up, fam?
What's up, man?
How
And
you?
like, I'm
Go ahead.
good, man. How about yourself, man? This it's crazy too, cause like my family, we've been in California. Next month is gonna be the 100-year anniversary since my great great grandfather invented the automatic railroad crossing and moved us to California in the 1920s.
Mm,
My dad talked about how they used to go up to Oakland to Stockton to pick cherries in the 50s. Black folks. It was nothing but black folks up there, and in the summertime they would go up to Stockton to pick cherries. And he said he remembers the Mexicans literally coming in by the busload. And by the time 1961, 62 hit, what they used to have, what the black kids had for summer jobs and after school work, because there's a lot of the black youth that was doing that stuff
yeah,
for extra work. They all by 61, 62 they couldn't get those jobs anymore, and all the Mexicans came in. So it's not like the black folks said we too good for these jobs. They just like what Twizzle said. They got undercut and kicked out. So it's not like we weren't doing this stuff. We just got replaced, even on those jobs. And
yeah,
then in LA in the 60s and the 70s, it was the same thing when it came to the service jobs. The black people were the service jobs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You remember LA in the late 80s, we still had mostly black folks doing mostly all that stuff. But when the early 90s hit, that's when the shit flipped around the riots. So
yeah,
them going around trying to claim all this, we built that. No, y'all just undercut the price of wages, and we got to keep that on there.
yeah. Yes, indeed, my brother. Thank you so much, brother Dwan. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, it's very important to put everything in the right context when people say stuff. Oh yeah, don't let people revise and rewrite history. Shout out to everybody in here. We're in here deep. We're in here deep. Y'all raise them hands. Okay, let me see. Let's get what the hell is FBA nigga? All right, come on in, brother. Come on in. Uh,
Hey, how's it going, family?
what's going on, brother? How are you?
Man, pretty cool, man. I just wanted to say something, because I'm born and raised in California. And I remember even like when I was going to school, my grandmother had moved me from the school I was going to in the 90s to a more all black school because she was complaining about all the illegal immigrants coming into California, you know? And and I remember like getting to my teenage years. I couldn't get a job in LA because you had these grown ass illegal immigrants that was basically having all the jobs and they would never hire us. They never hire, foundational black Americans. They would get
Hmm.
our applications and throw them away and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's a serious thing, man. We used to get those little minimum wage jobs. That was our little summer money. That was our little school money back in the day. Yeah, these were jobs for children, black children. That would keep a lot of us up out of the bullshit. Big. And yeah, you got these grown ass people who were foreigners who came over and started taking them jobs. So that undercut the wages and that put a real dent in the game. So we got to be very honest.
Hi, I'm Mateo. Do you want to learn about Hidden Heroes? Hidden Heroes from A to Z is a cool book that tells the stories of amazing black heroes you might not know about. You'll meet inventors, you'll meet explorers, and leaders who change the world. It's fun, inspiring, and you can learn so much. Get your copy now at hiddenhistorymuseum.com. Let's discover our hidden heroes together.